is cohesive, which is integrated, but we have a diversified development. Secondly, internal divisions, and you heard a lot about it. Even today, if Muslims are divided in terms of their fiqhi masalik, and even in one and same fiqhi maslak, in terms of mosques and centers, who don't have their hearts and minds wide enough to accept differences, then we cannot play our role. Thirdly, adoption of Greek thought. Adaptation and adoption, two separate things. Islam is for adaptation, not for adoption. Islam allows a believer to adapt things which are suitable and in Islamic framework, but does not allow to adopt things. Adoption means when you have the whole system taken. Adaptation means you use critical mind to find out where we have some conflict, where things are in line. Therefore, when we adopted, and for that matter, if we adopt Western democracy, if we adopt Western culture, if we adopt Western food, if we adopt Western architecture, in all cases we are losers. I have seen with my own eyes in many Muslim countries, architects who are trained in France, Germany, America and elsewhere, when they go back to their own home countries, without knowing the climatic conditions, they replicate the kind of homes, the kind of buildings which they learn to make in their Western experience. They have no idea about airflow, no idea about heat, no idea about insulation difficulties. Just replicate, because their mindset has changed. That's adoption. But if they use technology, if they learn methods, but have adaptation, changes. Muslim culture adapted a number of things, but everything was transformed. We used red stone, we used white marble, we used sandstones as main substance, even some pillars of earlier people. But all those were transformed into a new structure. If you visit Jami Qurtuba or Jami Ummi or many others, you can see with your own eyes how local substance was used with one single concept of one single civilization globally. You travel from one place to the other end of the world, whether in Central Asia, whether in Spain, whether in Middle East, elsewhere, and you will have one and same civilization, same culture, same concepts, although substance will be changed. This is the power and beauty of Islamic culture, because of value-based system. Value is one and same, and that value reflects itself in all those manifestations. Next, dualism in life. That life was divided in two sections, a sacred and a secular realm. When they want to go to masjid, they would like to put a specific kind of dress, a prayer hat, make wudu, on Friday make ghusl. But when they go to a workplace, they'll never worry about does their body smell or not. This is division of secularity and sacredness. When they go to masjid, they say, Allah, you are A'la, Azim, Akbar. When they are back in factory, they say, Uncle Sam, you are great. Your system is better. Dollar, you are great, money is God. Glamour, you are better, glamour is my God. So if I am popular, people like me, then I am a great person. All these gods come back when they leave the masjid. This is duality. When they go in their home, then whatever is demand of their family becomes halal for them, while same was haram when they were in masjid. This dualism has been one reason for that problem. And lastly, ethnic and nationalistic trends, that we are Yemenis, we are Arabs, we are Indonesians, we are Pakistanis. All these ethnic and nationalistic trends. Iqbal, in one of his very famous couplet, says, among the modern gods, the biggest is Watan. Then he says, whatever is the dress of this god of Watan is the coffin of the Muslim Ummah. And we worship that Watan. We worship that ethnicity. We worship that blood relationship, that linguistic approach which was condemned by Islam completely. These are just a few of those aspects. Now, having said that, I see a very obvious Islamic revivalism in the 20th century, and that is reflected first and foremost in the holistic view of Islam as the way of life, not as religion. Secondly, as Islam understood as deen and not as religion. Third, Islam having its applied dimension of Tawheed, not just a matter of Aqidah. I discussed this yesterday in a bit detailed manner, but it needs much more detail, for which we don't have time. And I see that role of Muslim reformers, revivalists in this age has made Islam much more vibrant reality. Then the question arises, is there a place for religious fundamentalism in Islam? When we say Islam's revival, does it mean that Muslims, when they go back to the Quran and Sunnah, can be called fundamentalists? The topic requires extraordinary careful study. The terminology, its meaning, implication, history need to be explored. I am not aware of a single Muslim scholar who calls himself or defines Islam as person who is asasi, as person who is concerned about